Hi everyone, I'm Mrs. Nelly Henshaw, your new literacy teacher, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to grade 3. Congratulations on your promotion to this new class, and this term promises to be an exciting one. We trust you are ready to face the activities of this term and enjoy every single moment of it. And today, in our creative writing class, the topic is fact and fiction. Our learning objective is that at the end of the class, you will be able to explain the meaning of fact and fiction with examples, identify the differences and similarities between fact and fiction, identify the elements of fiction, and of course, write a factual story. Now let's move on. Now, what is the meaning of fact and fiction? Fact is something that is true or real. It's something that can be proven. When you say something is a fact, it means it can be proven. It is real. There are evidences to show that it is real. Okay? All right. It is an information or a written work based on truth and evidence. When a written work is based on truth or actual events and people, we call it a factual story or non-fiction. And examples include newspapers, magazines, historical books, biography, autobiography, journals, research books, and of course your textbooks. So you notice from these examples, these are writings that deal, with truth. Newspapers are not made up stories. They are, stories or writings based on evidence. People do their researches and, of course, write what they have gathered. They write it as news. And these stories are based on actual events and people. They are not something, that is made up by the writer. It must be proven. It's something they have done researches on, and they've gathered their information, before they are written. So these are examples. You may be wondering what is a biography or autobiography. Biography are stories written by an author concerning his own life. For example, you can be a writer that chooses to write your own biography. You can decide to write a story, about your life, about yourself, everything that happened to you. And when you write such stories about yourself, it is called autobiography because it is written by you, the author. Autobiography. Now, if I decide to write a story based on your life, the events that took place in your life, the things that happened to you, everything about you, then it becomes a biography. I am writing a story about you. Okay, so about your life. That is biography. But when you decide to write it yourself, it is known as autobiography. And of course, these will be, you know, real stories. They won't be made up. They are not things I'll just cook up about you, and they are not things you will just cook up about yourself. They are based on facts, okay, and actual events. So we have journals, research books, and textbooks. So these are books or writings that is based on truth. Okay, then we come to fiction. Fiction is a made up story. It is formed or created from the imagination of the writer. For example, you as a writer may decide to write a story, and from your mind you just make up things. You just make up stories and write it. That is fiction. It is not real. It is made up. It is from the creativity of the writer. All right? You may even decide to write on any topic at all. Okay? So that is what fiction is about. It is not based on truth or evidence. It appears in the short and long form. So the short type of fiction is called short story, and the long one becomes a novel. So examples, just like I've mentioned, you have short story, you have play or drama, then you have novel, then you also have, there's one called novella. Novella is another word for short story. Okay. All right, let's move on. Now, what are the similarities and differences? Okay. Now, when we consider fact and fiction, how do they look alike and how do they differ from each other? Okay, so let's look at the similarities now. Both fact and fiction can be written as stories. Yes, they are written as stories, both fact and fiction. Now, they can also be acted as films or plays. Now, after writing it, some people might read it and say, okay, this is an interesting story. We want people to watch it. We want to put it in a movie form so that people won't just read it, they will watch it on the television. And so those kind of films, those kind of writings can be turned as films, can be acted as films or plays. For example, we have Fact, which is autobiography, the one written by Nelson Mandela himself, Long Journey to Freedom. So that is autobiography, excuse me. That is a story about the life of Nelson Mandela, written by Nelson Mandela himself. That is why it is known as autobiography, and it is a factual story, but can be acted. In fact, people have acted it, as a film. So both stories can be acted as films or plays, and both require hard work and takes time to be completed. Okay, now let's go to the differences. Fact is based on truth, while fiction is based on the writer's pure imagination. That means fact, I've said before, is based on reality, something that can be proven, okay? And then why fiction is cooked up, is made up, is based on the imagination of the writer. Now, facts can be proved or confirmed with evidence, while fiction cannot because it is created from the mind. Then fact deals with real incidents and people. Fact talks about real people and the real experiences they've had. For example, the Nelson Mandela story I talked about. They are based on real incidents that happened in Nelson Mandela's life. All right. And then fiction deals with imaginary people. You can imagine your Little Mermaid story that you've watched. That's a fictitious work. It's not real. Okay. And then you can imagine also your which other story you've watched so many films. The Snow Queen, the Emperor's New Clothes, and all that. They are based on the imagination of the writer. The fact is read for the purpose of information and knowledge, while fiction is read for the purpose of pleasure and enjoyment. Okay? Right. So let's move on now. Now we come to elements of fiction. Elements of fiction are the things that the writer uses to make a work interesting. Okay, these are things he or she has to put together to bring out an interesting story. You have plot, you have settings, you have character, you have conflict, you have theme, and then you have point of view. Now, plot is the arrangement of events as they occur in the story. The arrangement, how the events that will happen in the story are arranged. So that's the plot. And then the settings, this is the time or place in which the story takes place. Remember, every story has a background. Every story takes place in a certain location, probably in a market, in a house, in a church, in the village, in the city, in the hotel. So these are the settings. And of course, the time in which the story takes place. You have the character. These are the actors in the story. You have the conflict. The conflict is the problem in the story, the problem that bothers the actors and which they try to solve in that story. Then you have the theme. The theme is the main point of the story. What is the story all about? Every story must have a point. So what is it about? Then you have point of view. This is the angle through which a story is told. You have the first or third person point of view. Now the first person point of view is where the writer will put the story in this form. I was lying on my bed and then mommy walked into the room. Okay, the person writes the story as if he's talking about himself, as if he's the person in that story. I walked over to him, I did this, I did that. So that is it, the first point of view. Then you have the third person point of view. This is where you see he, she, the woman went to the man gave her the book, they crossed, they, he, she. So that is the third person point of view. I hope you are following. Okay, good. Now we have an activity in front of us. How can you tell if a story is a fact or fiction? You have to, by now, understand what a fact or what a fiction is about and what it looks like. So, how can you tell if a story is a fact or fiction? Which of these can be classified as fiction and why? If you check out short story, newspaper, which of them, of course, is fiction and why? Why do you think so? Now write some facts about your family or the people you live with. You could describe your dad and mom and the jobs they do. And of course, you can write how many brothers and sisters you have. You write their names, ages, the grade they are in, and how you relate with them. All right? So these are things that you have experienced. They are what you see every day. Mom and dad, what do they do? My brothers, my sisters, their names, you know that by now, their ages, and of course, how do you relate with them? So I want you to try it out. Write about it. Yes, so this is where we draw the curtain for today. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Remember to stay safe and maintain good hygiene. And if you have any question, please get to me through mom and dad, and your question will be answered. This is Mrs. Nelly Henshaw signing off. Bye bye.